It's time for another episode of Random Thoughts from a Crazed Mind, the worst video channel on YouTube, because people will watch anything on YouTube, and this is anything. I went to college at West Texas State University in Canyon, Texas. You probably never heard of West Texas State University, but it is a state university in Texas located just outside of Amarillo, Texas. So you probably don't know about Amarillo either, and there's not much really to know. The only thing you really need to know is that Amarillo, Texas is about the same as Lubbock, Texas. Same basic size, same basic culture. You'd have a hard time telling either apart. The only real difference is that Lubbock has Texas Tech University, and Amarillo does not have a major university and is located 10 miles from Canyon, Texas, where West Texas A&M is located. Texas Tech is a major state university and has received a lot of state funding, and West Texas State, which is now part of Texas A&M and changed to West Texas A&M, was established as a teachers college in 1910 as a method of training teachers to teach at all the tiny little farm towns in the Texas Panhandle. So it was never very well funded. Nonetheless, West Texas State did play Division I football and basketball in the 1970s and 80s and had some degree of success. Mercury Morris played at WT, as it was called by those that attend, and he was one of the best running backs in the NFL in the 1970s, and Dwayne Thomas was a starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys in a Super Bowl season and was famous for clashing with legendary coach Tom Landry, so you know he was pretty good. They also won 19 games several times in basketball in the Missouri Valley Conference in the 1970s and had maybe the best point guard in the country in Maurice Cheeks, who later went on to start for the Philadelphia 76ers and eventually even became the Sixers head coach. They also actually beat Jimmy Johnson's Oklahoma State Cowboys in football in a game in the 1980s. So this was not a program without potential, as it is obviously a university in a location easily capable of supporting a Division I football or basketball program. However, the university claimed the football program was in the hole $1 million, and the school decided to drop down to Division II and play non-scholarship football and basketball as a result. Now, I was a journalism major, and I was the sports editor for the university newspaper and had to write an editorial for the student newspaper. It was originally going to be about how great homecoming was, but I refused to write it. I was told I was going to write it, and I said I wasn't, so I ultimately didn't. One of the girls that was editor of the paper wrote it instead, but I still had to write an editorial. So I gave the university my best advice. I made the radical proposal that the university drop its football program and resume playing basketball in the Missouri Valley Conference, and gave all the reasons stated here that it could be successful, and added that the program was capable of having the same type of program as Texas Tech, since Amarillo and Lubbock were basically identical in population, and the school played its basketball games at the Amarillo Civic Center. I will also add that our basketball coach at the time was Mark Adams, who is now head coach for Texas Tech and considered the primary reason for the school's unique defensive strategy and its unprecedented amount of success in college basketball in recent years. Well, you can guess how this brilliant bit of logic was received. However, the school did actually take my advice and drop the football program a few years later, but continued to play Division II basketball before empty seats in the Civic Center. This decision was ultimately such a disaster that the school brought back its football program a couple of years later. Meanwhile, Wichita State decided to continue playing Division I basketball, and now it owns its own jet airplane, and all of the schools of the Missouri Valley are making millions playing college basketball and will make untold millions more, and West Texas A&M cannot beat Texas Lutheran. This is the difference between foresight and blind stupidity. So I know what you're thinking here. You're saying, so how did you make millions of dollars for West Texas A&M? Okay, I did not exactly make millions for the school, but I could have. I think that's all that should matter. So what is the moral of this story? Well, it is that my opinions are documented to be worth millions of dollars, even if you think they are crazy. So you might want to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. And remember, people will watch anything on YouTube, and this has been anything. Thanks for watching.